7, to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. Number 8, to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, Karma Khanda. Number 9, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. Number 10, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Once again, thank you everyone for joining the Bhakti Sangha conference call today. Let us move to our next session, which is Srimad Bhagavatam class. May I know who all have joined the call this morning?
हरे कृष्णा माता जी धर्म प्रणाम श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय गुरु महाराज की जय विशेष श्यामा गौरी देवीदासी ब्रह्मशाली
Hare Krishna, Shama Gauri Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my beloved obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण जी
Hare Krishna, Priya Narmada Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Rangoon.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my beloved obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Narmada Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharajas, and all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Tiffany in Pennsylvania. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Tiffany Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my beloved obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण
Hare
नंद
Krishna,
प्रिया
Nanda.
नर्मदा माता जी
Go ahead, Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण नंद प्रिया नर्मदा माता जी please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees on the call. This is Harita from Houston. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Harita Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my beloved obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Narmada Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru and Shigaranga. And to all the assembled devotees, this is Megha from Naperville. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Megha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my beloved obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to Assembled devotee. This is Mohini Lakshmi from Detroit.
Hare Krishna, Mohini Lakshmi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my beloved obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Narmada Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from Texas Police Station. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my beloved obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Yashamati Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my beloved obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Priya Mataji, my Dandavat Pranam to you and to the all assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Lord Damodara. This is Pooja Arora from Haridwar.
Hare Krishna, Pooja Arora Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my beloved obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Narmada Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indaleka Karna Devidasi from Lincoln, and Prabhuji has joined me.
Hare Krishna, Indaleka Karuna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Radhika Vallabha Prabhu on the call to enlighten us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 4th chapter, 5th sloka. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for giving your very valuable time and association to us this morning and enlightening us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. Please take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome all the devotees to the Bhakti Sangha Jagat Conference. So today we are reading from Canto 6, Chapter 4, entitled the Hamsa Guhya Prayers, text number 5. Drumebhya krudyamanaste tapo deepita manyavaha mukato vayumagnim cha sastrujus taddidakshaya. Word to word translation. Drumebhya, unto the trees, krudyamanaha, being very angry, they, the 10 sons of the Prachina Barihi. Tapo Deepita Manyavaha, whose anger was inflamed because of long austerities. Mukataha, from the mouth. Vayum, wind. Agnim, fire. Cha, and Sasrujuhu, they created. Tat, those forests. Didakshaya, with the desire to burn. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Because of having undergone long austerities in the water, the Prachetas were very angry at the trees. Desiring to burn them to ashes, they generated wind and fire from their mouths. Purport. Here the word Tapo Deepita Manyavaha indicates persons who have undergone severe austerity with a great evinced by us, who created fire and wind. Devotees associated tapasya, sadavaha, which means that they never the good Bhagavatam states, Titikshava Karunika Suhruda Sarvadehina Ajata Shatrava Shanta Sadava Sadhu Bhushanaha. A sadhu, a devotee, is never angry. Actually, the real feature of devotees who undergo tapasya, austerity, is forgiveness. Although a Vaishnava has sufficient power in tapasya, he does not become angry when put into difficulty. If one undergoes tapasya but does not become a Vaishnava, however, one does not develop good qualities. For example, Hiranyakashipu and Ravana also performed great austerities, but they did so to demonstrate their demoniac tendencies. Vaishnavas must meet many opponents while preaching the glories of the Lord. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that they not become angry while preaching. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given this formula, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadaharihi. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Those engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord should be humbler than the grass and more tolerant than a tree. Then they can preach the glories of the Lord without difficulty. Hare Krishna. So we are reading the next section after the Ajamil story. So in this particular chapter, Parishit Maharaj is wanting to know about further creation. And in order to explain the further creation, Shukdev Goswami starts describing the creation which was actually continued by Daksha Prajapati. So therefore, is actually is talking about the birth of Daksha Prajapati from the Prachetas. The Prachetas, they are the sons of Prachina Barisha. They had performed austerities under the water for 10,000 years. They got darshan of the Lord. They offered very beautiful prayers. These prayers come in the 4th canto, chapter 30. And then after performing austerities, after getting darshan of the Lord, then they came back to the kingdom. Meanwhile, while they were performing austerities, Narada Muni went to Prachina Parishad out of compassion towards Prachina Parishad, because Prachina Parishad is a descendant of Dhruva Maharaj. Narada Muni wanted to show mercy to him. He could not accept that a descendant of a personality like Dhruva Maharaj is not interested in pure bhakti, but is absorbed in the karma kanda. Therefore, Narada Muni went and instructed Prachina Parishad indirectly through an allegorical story of Puranjan, and inspired Prachina Parishad to take to Bhakti Yoga and to take up a life of Vanaprastha in the forest. Prachina Parishad wanted to wait till his son's return. He wanted to hand over the responsibilities to his sons, and then he wanted to go to the forest. But understanding the conditioned soul generally tends to postpone one's spiritual practices. So Narada Muni inspired Prachina Parishad to not even wait for his sons to return. So therefore, Prachina Parishad went to the forest. And when Prachetas returned, because the kingdom was without a king, there was like overgrowth of the trees and plants everywhere. Many of the agricultural land which is supposed to be used for agriculture, they were actually overgrown with many trees. The Prachetas, they became angry. What was the cause of their anger? Tapo Deepita Manyavaha. Because of having undergone long austerities. Some acharyas say that because they performed austerities without even eating food. 10,000 years under the water without even eating food. Because of having undergone long austerities, therefore the Prachetas were filled with anger. Manyavaha. And whom did they exhibit their anger? Drumebhya Krudyamanaste. Krudyamanaha. They exhibited their anger towards the trees. With what purpose? Tat Didakshaya. Didakshaya means Dabdum Ichaya. The desire to burn the trees to ashes. What did they do? Mukataha Vayum Agnimcha Sasrujuhu. Sasrujuhu, they generated. What did they generate? Vayum Agnim, wind and fire. From where? Mukataha, from their mouth. From their mouth, they generated wind and fire. They directed their anger towards the trees in order to burn the trees to ashes. So here, Prabhupada talks about that. They are endowed with a great power, mystic power. That great wind, fire from their mouth. And Prabhupada also talks about how austerity should actually should make a person soft-hearted. Like when a person performs austerities, but if a person exhibits anger as a result of the austerities, then that is not the sign of a Vaishnava. So one of the qualities of Vaishnava, Titikshava Karunika Suhruda Sarvadehina Ajata Shatrava Shanta Sadhava Sadhu Bhushana. They are merciful, kind to all living entities. They don't consider anybody as an enemy. They are peaceful and decorated with wonderful qualities. They always follow the Shastras. And especially while preaching, if a person exhibits anger, he cannot preach effectively. Therefore, for preaching, one of the most important, we have to follow Mahaprabhu's guidelines. Tranadapi Sunichena Taroripa Sagisana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadakari. So these are some points Prabhupada is highlighting in the purport. So when we talk about austerities, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was sending some of his disciples to go abroad for preaching, the main technique Saraswati Thakur would give them for preaching in the West was, he would quote this verse, Tanadapi Sunichena. So this is, apart from learning other techniques like, presenting by using the right language, right words, and dressing oneself properly, speaking in a pleasing way, or whatever, using PowerPoint and eye contact with the people. Yeah, all these techniques are important. But one of the fundamental technique for preaching is that our fundamental principle is Tranadapi Sunichena Tarorupi Sahishnuna. Especially when we are preaching to the newcomers or people who are not yet become devotees. Devotees are naturally they are submissive and respectful towards others. So, because people will challenge us or they will actually question us. So at that time, we need to address their questions without becoming angry. So, so we see Prachetas had performed tapasya for a long time. Tapasya is definitely mentioned in the Shastra. Without tapasya, we cannot achieve anything substantial in our life. Bhagavatam recommends tapasya. Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha damena cha. One should practice tapasya. Or Rishabhadev says that Tapo divyam nayam deho dehabhajam naloke kashtan kaman arhade vidbujam ye tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhyed yasmat brahma saukyam tvanantam. The purpose of human life is not to enjoy sense gratification, which is available even in the body of hogs and dogs. But the purpose of human life is to perform divine tapasya. Just 1 second. To perform divine tapasya, that means to perform tapasya for the highest spiritual happiness, Brahma Saukyam Tvanantam. And Krishna, when Arjuna asked that how can I control the mind, by talking about the qualities of the mind, Krishna said that Chanchalam hi manat Krishna pramati balavat dridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushtam. Arjuna talked about the qualities of the mind. And then Krishna said that asamshayam mahabaho mano durlikanam salam. It is definitely true that mind is difficult to control. But abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grhyate. By practice and by vairagya, detachment, one can control the mind. So Krishna also emphasizes vairagya, tapasya, detachment. And even the second chapter, Krishna talks about vairagya, vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. A embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, but the taste for sense gratification still remains. But niraharasya dehinaha, but ceasing such engagements, that means by practicing tapasya, practicing vairagya, and by experiencing a higher taste, param drishtva, one is fixed in consciousness. So here also Krishna emphasizes two things: practicing tapasya, withdrawing the senses from the sense objects, and experiencing a higher taste. And when we talk about the tapasya, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami speaks 64 angas of bhakti. And then after describing 64 angas of bhakti, he specifically says that some people say that jnana and vairagya, they should also be considered as anga of bhakti. Or some people say that varnashram should also be included as an anga of bhakti. So to these questions, Rupa Goswami addresses, he says that jnana and vairagya, they are not angas of bhakti. So he says, jnana vairagya yor bhakti praveshaya upayogita ishat pratamam eveti nangatvam uchitam tayoho. So jnana and vairagya, they are useful for praveshaya upayogita, for entering into bhakti. Ishat pratamam eva. Ishat, that too, in the very beginning, they are useful for entering into bhakti, and that too, Ishat means only a little bit of knowledge and renunciation. Only a little bit of knowledge and renunciation. They are useful for entering into bhakti, and that too in the very beginning. Pratamam eva iti. Pratamam eva. So you say, Praveshaya is mentioned, Ishat is mentioned, Pratamam eva is mentioned. Ishat jnana vairagya, only a little bit of jnana and vairagya, and for entering into bhakti, and that too in the very beginning. So therefore, what is the conclusion? Na angatvam uchitam tayoho. Therefore, we don't consider jnana and vairagya to be angas of bhakti. They are not limbs of bhakti. And Jiva Goswami, he says in his purport, Bhakti pravishtasya vairagyam chitta katinya hetutaya heyatvena uktam. Bhakti pravishtasya, that means for a person who has entered into bhakti, and if a person is trying to cultivate renunciation, if a person is cultivating, is over cultivating renunciation, then what will happen? Chitta katinya. His heart will become hard. His heart will become hard. Over cultivate, for a person who has entered into bhakti, if he is trying to over cultivate renunciation, then his heart will become hard. So therefore, that over cultivation of renunciation should be rejected. So you see, when we talk about Bhava Bhakti, one of the symptoms of Bhava Bhakti is that one's heart becomes soft. Tadashmasaram hrudayam vatedam na vikriyetata yada vikaro yadgrihyamana tadashmasaram hrudayam vatedam yadgrihyamanair harinamadeyai na vikriyetata yada vikaro netre jalam gatra ruheshu harsha. If tears don't flow from the eyes when a person chants the holy name, that means one's heart is considered to be steel framed. So when a person over cultivates renunciation after having entered into bhakti, then that over cultivation of renunciation will harden one's heart. So therefore, sometimes when people keep criticizing material world all the time, that can be a symptom of a jnani actually. In the Bhagavatam first canto, there is a verse which comes that about Narada Muni, Kalam pratikshan vimado vimatsaraha naman yanantasya kalam pratikshan vimado vimatsaraha. So Narada Muni was just waiting for the right time to leave this world. He was neither attached to living in this world nor attached to leaving this world. So some people who are attached to leaving this world, they will all the time keep criticizing the material world. So that kind of this one will harden one's heart, and that is not conducive for cultivating spiritual emotions. Even when Rupa Goswami discusses about the Madhurya Rasa, he says, Nivrittanu Anupayogitvad Duruhatvad Ayam Rasaha. Especially when a person is over cultivating renunciation, such people cannot relish Madhurya Rasa. Madhurya Rasa is unfit to be relished by those who are too detached. Again, Jiva Goswami says in the purport, Nivritteshu Prakrita Shringara Rasa Samadrishtya Bhagavatad Api Asmad Rasad Virakteshu Anupayogitvad Ayogyatvad. So those people who are extremely detached and those who are dry jnanis, they consider Madhurya Rasa as being in the same category as mundane romance. So such people, they stay away from Madhurya Rasa even though it is given in the Amalam Puranam Srimad Bhagavatam. So such people, such renunciants are ineligible for Madhurya Rasa. As we see that Shukadeva Goswami was so highly renounced that when Janaka Maharaj wanted to know the greatness of Shukadeva Goswami, he called him for a feast, and Shukadeva Goswami, there was not even a slight sensation of saliva. He didn't salivate even little bit, even though there was a big feast in front of him. Shukadeva Goswami was so detached that he didn't even distinguish between a male and a female. But that Shukadeva Goswami was absorbed in narrating the Madhurya Rasa. Narada Muni, such a great devotee, a traveling mendicant sadhu, but he became a Naradiya Gopi to assist in the Rasalila. But those who are dry renunciants, they consider Madhurya Rasa and mundane romance to be same. So therefore, such people are not qualified for Madhurya Rasa. So this is something about like a dry renunciation or over cultivation of renunciation, over cultivation of tapasya, how it is actually unfavorable. And so the purpose of tapasya, Narada Muni says that Aradito Yadiharim Tapasa Tatakim. Naradito Yadiharim Tapasa Tatakim. The purpose of tapasya is to worship Lord Hari. If a person cannot worship Lord Hari by performing tapasya, what is the use of this tapasya? And if a person is worshipping Hari, then what is the need of any other extra tapasya? That is why in the Damodar Leela, when Yashoda was feeding Krishna milk, the milk in the kitchen started boiling. So what were the thoughts of the milk in the kitchen? Yan nama smritir apyalam vidunute santapam asya prabor agre tapam upaimi taddigiti mam matva niyane payah Vudyuktam bhavati avekshya harina sarveshvare naiva tat satyananda yashoda yekshitam iha kariti manyamake. This is a verse composed by Harishuri in his Bhakti Rasayanam commentary. The milk, he's telling the feelings, the thoughts of the milk, which was boiling over. The milk is thinking that here is that Supreme Lord. By remembering his name, Yennama Smritir Api Alam, all the burning heat of this material world is driven away. Santapam Asya Prabhu. Bhagavatam says that tapatrayon moolanam. Simply by hearing Bhagavatam, the three tapas are uprooted from the root. Or by meditating on the glance of the Lord, tasyavaloka madikam kripayati gora tapatrayopashamanaya nisrishtam akshnu. By when a yogi meditates on the compassionate glances of the Lord, they soothe the threefold miseries of the material world. So similarly, that this milk is thinking that simply by remembering the name of this Lord, the burning heat of this material world is driven away. And that Supreme Lord Krishna is right in my presence. In the next room, I am in the presence of that Supreme Lord. Agre tapam upaiti tad diggiti mam matva niyate paya. But still, I am being burnt in this fire, although I am in the personal presence of Krishna. Tad diggiti, to fie with my existence, fie upon me and my existence. So, in this way, the milk is actually thinking like that, because the milk is thinking that, like, I am in the presence of that Krishna and I am getting burnt. I am not going to get an opportunity to serve Krishna. Why am I, the milk is thinking that, why am I doing the tapasya of getting heated when I am not going to be engaged in Krishna's service? Better let me commit suicide. So therefore, the milk actually started to commit suicide, or milk wanted to attract the attention of Mother Yashoda by boiling over. So we see that the milk is actually thinking that, oh, if I am not going to be engaged in Krishna's service, what is the use of my tapasya? So the purpose of tapasya is to engage in Krishna's service. And yeah, this is the purpose of tapasya. That is why we see, like, sometimes devotees, even if they appear to perform dry renunciation or dry tapasya, like for example, if you read 4th canto, 23rd chapter, Prithu Maharaj, after he entered the Vanaprastha ashram, how he performed tapasya in the forest. If you read those verses, it appears that it is an over cultivation of tapasya. Prithu Maharaj surrounded himself by blazing fire during the summer, and he would take bath in the cold water during the winter. He performed such extreme tapasya. But the verse says that Prithu Maharaj performed that tapasya for the pleasure of Krishna. For the pleasure of Krishna. So therefore, that is the purpose of tapasya. And there also Prabhupada quotes the same Narada Bhakti Sutra verse. And again, regarding tapasya, there is another beautiful section in the Bhagavatam 2nd canto. When Brahmaji got darshan of Krishna, Krishna spoke very beautiful verses to Brahma. Varam varaya badram te varesham mavi vanchitam Brahman shreya parishrama pumso mat darshana vadihi. Badram te, all auspiciousness unto you, O Brahma. And please ask your desired benediction from me. Because I can avoid all benedictions. And endeavors in the process of bhakti end in seeing me. So, and then he says that Manishtanu bhavoyam mama lokavalokanam Yat upashritya rahasi chakarta paramam tapaha. By my mercy, you previously heard my instruction. Previously, you heard the word tapa when you are all alone. Actually, I only pronounced that word tapa. And then after hearing that, you performed the greatest austerity. And then now you have got darshan of me and you have got darshan of my abode. So not only I have affection for you now, but previously also I had affection for you. That is why I gave you instruction, guideline to perform tapasya. And then you very sincerely performed tapasya. So the tapasya which Brahmaji performed, it is not just some ordinary tapasya, it is actually bhakti yoga. Because without bhakti yoga, one cannot get darshan of Krishna. Therefore, Brahmaji performed tapasya in devotional service. And then Krishna tells about the importance of tapasya. He says that, Pratyadishtam maya tatra tvayi karma vimohite tapo me hridayam sakshat atmaham tapasonaga. And those words which I uttered, tapasya, tapa, were actually spoken by me when you are bewildered about how to create the universe in the beginning. So, tapo me hridayam sakshat. Austerity for attaining me is my heart. And I am the soul of that austerity. So, austerity for attaining me, that means the bhakti yoga is my heart. And I am the soul of that austerity. So, without me as the goal, austerity is without life, like a corpse. So, even though you have performed austerity with a desire to create the universe, because I inspired that desire in you, and that austerity is pleasing to me, because this austerity was performed without any fruitive mentality. You performed austerity only with a desire to serve me by wanting to create this universe. So therefore, austerity, the purpose of austerity is to please Krishna. Austerity should be performed with remembrance of Krishna. King Kulashekara speaks a beautiful verse. Amna yabhyasana naranya ruditam Vedavratanyanvaham Medascheda palani purta vidaya Sarvam hutam basmani Tirthanam avagahanani jagaja Snanam vinayat pada Dvandvam boruha samsmritim vijayate Devasa Narayana. Kulashekar says that without remembrance of your lotus feet, mere recitation of the scripture is like crying in the wilderness of the forest. And without remembrance of your lotus feet, observing severe vows enjoined in the Vedas, it is nothing more than an exercise for losing one's fat or losing one's weight. Or without remembrance of your lotus feet, execution of prescribed pious duties is like pouring oblations into ashes. And without remembrance of your lotus feet, bathing at various holy places is no more than the bath of an elephant. So therefore, austerity should be accompanied with remembrance of Krishna. So Krishna told Brahma, Srijami tapasai vedam grasami tapasa punaha Bibarmi tapasa vishwam viryam me dushcharam tapaha. By austerity only, I create the universe, I destroy the universe, and maintain the universe again and again. And my power arises from intense austerity. Actually, Prabhupada elsewhere says that one cannot become God by performing austerities. Some people think that they can become God by performing austerities. Like Hiranyakashipu practically wanted to occupy the position, dethrone Brahma, and he wanted to kill Vishnu by performing austerities. So that is actually a wrong idea. One cannot become God by performing austerities. But then how can Krishna say here that I create, maintain and destroy the universe by performing austerity and my power arises from austerity? So here Krishna is actually telling just the importance of austerity for us. There's some things that we cannot take literally. Krishna is actually self-endowed with all the powers. Because elsewhere in the Upanishad it is mentioned that Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. All the energies are, Krishna is naturally endowed with all the energies. All the energies are waiting to serve Krishna. Simply by glance he can create. It is not that he has to perform austerities to create. It's a Western idea where somebody painted a picture of God, was having a huge muscle and with a great effort he was holding the universe. No, Lord does not need to perform austerity to create, maintain and destroy the universe. But Krishna is speaking this verse in order to tell us the importance of austerity. So, but of course, austerity should be performed with remembrance of Krishna, and it is for pleasing Krishna. And so, when a person performs a dry austerity, many times people, although by that austerity, they may overcome the ocean of material desires, but they may end up drowning in the puddle of anger. When the Naranarayan Rishi, when the Indra tried to allure Naranarayan Rishi by sending Apsaras, but Naranarayan Rishi did not get allured. On the other hand, he produced even more beautiful Apsaras. And then when Indra, with a great fear, trembling in fear, when he came to beg forgiveness from Naranarayan Rishi, Indra thought that Naranarayan Rishi would become angry and curse him. But on the other hand, Narayan Rishi welcomed him with a great, in a very pleasing attitude. At that time, Indra speaks this verse. There are many sages who overcome the ocean of material desires by performing intense austerity, but then they later drown in the puddle of anger. But on the other hand, you are so great that you don't actually become victim to anger. So therefore, we see in the Bhakti Rasam, the Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami says that who can become actually a guru, who can become the guru of the world? Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jihva Vegam, Udara Upastha Vegam, Yetan Vegan Yo Vishaheta Dira, Sarvam Abhima Prativim Sadishya. One who has controlled the 6 urges of the speech, urges of the mind and anger, and urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, such a person can make disciples all over the world. So, especially in the current time, this verse is very relevant because in the current time, like for example, when there is a say YouTube, people have their own channels, YouTube, social media. So, practically speaking, when a person takes when a person is opening his own account in YouTube or Facebook Live, practically speaking, in one sense, one is taking up a role of being a guru of the world. Like one is taking up a role of being a guru of the world. Some like people have like lakhs of followers, millions of followers also, and one makes videos with the purpose to reach out a larger section. So whether one is aware or not that one is actually taking up a role of a guru of the world. And therefore, this Upadeshamrita verse is important. This verse says that one can control one who can tolerate the 6 urges can become the guru of the world. So in this, Rupa Goswami mentions about the Krodha Vegam. So about the Krodha Vegam, we'll discuss something about the Krodha Vegam. Recently, I was also hearing Hari Parshad Prabhu's classes. Very beautiful classes on this nectar of instruction. So some of the points I'll try to describe what he explained in the class. So Rupa Goswami, in the Nataka Chandrika, he gives the exact definition of a Krodha. Krodhastu manaso deeptir aparadadi darshanat. So Krodha means what? Krodha means the burning feeling of the mind caused due to perception of offenses, etc. So when a person perceives offenses, the offenses one may perceive either towards oneself or towards somebody else. So at that time, when a person develops a burning feeling in the mind, so that feeling is called as a Krodha. This is a definition of Krodha given by Rupa Goswami. So one may not respond to that Krodha, but when a person develops that burning feeling in the mind, then that feeling is the Krodha, the indignation of the mind. Although a person may not be able to do in the particular circumstance, but then the feeling comes, that is the Krodha. And what does Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that Krodha is expressed through words and other means. Ruda Vakyadi Prayoga Dwara. Ruda Vakya Adi Prayoga Dwara. That means Krodha is expressed through the sharp words and other means. That means other means it can be expressed through the hands and the feet, or it can be expressed through, it may be expressed through physically beating somebody. Like for example, in the Damodar Leela, Krishna, how did he express his Krodha? When Mother Yashoda went to take care of the milk, Krishna expressed his Krodha by biting his lips. So why did Krishna express the Krodha like that? Krishna initially thought that maybe I should express my Krodha by kicking at the floor. But then he thought that no, kicking at the floor is inappropriate. Oftentimes the children express their Krodha by kicking at the things which are nearby. But Krishna thought that Darashritam iha aduna yadi karomi me rutphalam Gamishyati tato nakim vipala bhavam atma vratam Darakshitir iyam jananyapi tateti kimva satat Sukarpana dritavrato krita kila darekashritam. This is also a verse composed by Harishuri, where Krishna, he is giving the reason why Krishna was biting the lips. So Krishna was thinking that if I make the result of my anger Darashrita, that means if I exhibit my anger towards the earth, that way, towards Dara. So Dara, one of the meaning of the word Dara is earth. Dara is also the name of his mother. Drona and Dara performed austerities to get Krishna as a child. Drona and Dara merged into the bodies of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. So Krishna was thinking that if I make the result of my anger Dara, that means this earth, then it would be inappropriate because I had taken a vow of protecting the earth. Krishna appeared in order to remove the burden of the earth. So therefore it is inappropriate to exhibit my anger towards the earth. And moreover, Dara is one of my mothers, and it is incorrect to vent out one's anger towards the mother. So therefore, thinking like that, Krishna, who was determined to give happiness to the earth, instead of making his anger Darashrita, he made his anger Adarashrita. So when you Adara refers to the lips. So he decided to make his anger by biting his lips. He decided to make made his anger take shelter of his lips. Therefore, he was biting the lips. So anyway, that anger is expressed in many ways. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that anger is expressed through the sharp words and other things. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says that anger arises through various causes, and he mentions 3 causes. Anya Abhilasha Atrupti Janya. That means because of unfulfilled desires, anger arises. That is why anger is called as Kamanuja, the younger brother of Kama. Oftentimes the people in the seminar, when they talk about anger management, they treat the anger as a separate emotion. So therefore, they can only talk about managing anger in a superficial way. But when you talk about anger, the identity of anger is that is Kamanuja, it is a younger brother of anger. So therefore, in order to deal with the anger from the root, then you have to actually deal with Kama. You have to see how to overcome Kama. And another reason for anger is that Karma Pala Lobha Atrupti Janya. That means when a person is performing an activity, and then when a person is expecting some result, and when a person does not get the result, then a person becomes angry. And another result for anger is Mukti Aprapti Janya. Or say, especially the first 2 causes of anger, Anya Bilashita Atrupti Janya, Karma Phala Lobha Atrupti Janya, these are causes of anger for the karmis who have material desires and who are expecting some result. But the jnanis also become angry. Jnanis are interested in mukti or liberation. And they perform great austerities, and then when they are not able to get mukti, at that time they may become angry. Mukti aprapti janya. So sometimes a devotee may have the attitude of a jnani. A devotee may come to bhakti with a desire to get peace. The desire for peace is something like a desire for mukti. Or just to get out of the material world, a desire to get peace. And then when even after many years, suppose if it is not happening, the peace is not coming, or a person is coming to bhakti only with a desire to go back to Godhead. But then after many years also one is struggling, then one may become angry. One may become angry even in the process of Krishna Bhakti. So therefore, we have to understand that purpose of Krishna Bhakti, the goal of Bhakti is not mukti or even mukti, the sense that Sayuja Mukti to never, it is never the goal. It is never the goal. But even the goal of Krishna Bhakti is not even Salokya Sarti Samipya Sarupya. The goal of Krishna Bhakti is to attain Krishna Prema. To attain Krishna Prema actually. And to serve Krishna. So therefore, whether you get the opportunity to serve Krishna in this world or in the spiritual world, the goal is actually serving Krishna, pleasing Krishna, getting Krishna Prema. So if we mainly think that goal is to simply go from the physical place of the material world to the spiritual world, that means there is a wrong understanding. Then we may end up becoming angry at some point. So So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the 3 causes of anger. And also, if we talk about anger, anger arises from the mind actually. When the mind is uncontrolled, the anger arises. In the Bhikshu Gita, in the Avanti Brahmanas Bhikshu Gita, Avadut Brahmanas Bhikshu Gita, in that 11th canto, Avadut Brahmana says that Tam Durjayam Shatrumasahya Vegam Aruntudam Tanna Vijitya Kechit Kurvantya Sadvigrahamatra Martyair Mitran Yudasina Ripun Vimuda. So Avadut Brahmana says that failing to conquer this irrepressible enemy, the mind, whose urges are intolerable and which torments the heart, fools create useless quarrel with others. Thus they conclude that some people are their friends, some are enemies. So essentially, he says that because of failing to control the mind, a person becomes angry and one starts quarreling with others. And one concludes some are friends, some are enemies, like that. So in one sense, anger arises from uncontrolled mind. And this is also confirmed by Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami says that Kamo Manyur Mado Loba Shoka Moha Bayadayaha. The mind is the root cause of Kama, anger, pride, greed, sorrow, delusion, fear, etc. That means anger arises from the mind. But Rupa Goswami, that means anger is included in the mind. So then why did Rupa Goswami separately mention as Krodha Vega? Because if the Krodha is included, if it is arising from the mind, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam. Why did he mention Krodha Vega separately apart from Manasa Vega? Because Krodha arises from the mind. Because this is an important question, because like Rupa Goswami, after hearing the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is presenting the condensed essence in the 11 verses. And when you are presenting the condensed 11 verses, one is not supposed to repeat something. Because when somebody is repeating something, that is a dosha in one's scholarship. For example, like Rupa, these 11 verses are like a sutra actually. These 11 verses are like a sutra, very condensed essence. And for example, in a definition of a sutra, when somebody is giving a sutra, one of the most important aspect of a sutra is that alpaksharam asandigdo, very minimal words should be there, very minimal letters. In a sutra, even if you can actually reduce some letters, some words, that is a great achievement. That is why, for example, in the Panini Grammar Sutra, it is said that when a person is able to reduce even one letter, one akshara in a sutra, one experiences the bliss of giving birth to a child. There's a famous saying in the Panini. So here the Manyu, anger arises from the mind. Then why did Rupa Goswami separately mention Krodha Vega apart from Manasa Vega? Like another example, when Rupa Goswami talks about 6 characteristics of bhakti, one of the characteristics of bhakti is Shubhada. And he says Shubhada means there are four criteria. Devotional service is all auspicious because it produces good qualities in a person. And then the happiness from bhakti is superior to mystic siddhis and brahmananda. And one more thing he says is that devotional service makes one attractive to all others and everyone else becomes attractive to him. So the whole world starts loving him, and everyone, he becomes attractive to the whole world. So there in the commentary, it is explained that when devotional service produces all good qualities, in that itself, this point should be included. But why did Rupa Goswami mention separately that he becomes dear to everyone and everyone becomes dear to him? But this is already included in the saying that he will get all good qualities. So the reason is that because this is a very special quality that the devotee becomes dear to everyone and whole world becomes dear to him. Therefore, although it is included within this point that bhakti produces all good qualities, but still it is separately mentioned. Or let me give another example. Suppose his son is going to write an entrance exam in another city. So the mother is telling that he is going to catch a train and go travel to the another city. And mother is asking, have you taken this? Have you taken your clothes? Have you taken your toilet kit? She is telling many things. She may be saying that, have you taken everything for your journey? In one sense, when she is saying that, have you taken everything? In that, everything is included, but still she will separately mention that, have you taken the hall ticket and have you taken the train ticket? Because these two things are the most important. Although they are included in the sentence, have you taken everything? But these two things are separately mentioned by the mother. Because without these two things, he cannot write the exam. He cannot go travel and he cannot write the exam. He cannot enter the examination hall. So similarly, that although anger arises from the mind, in one sense, in Manasa Vegam, the Krodha Vegam is included because Krodha Vegam is something very special. Therefore, Rupa Goswami has separately mentioned Krodha Vegam, although it is technically speaking, it is included within the Manasa Vegam. So what is so special about the Krodha Vegam that Rupa Goswami has separately mentioned Krodha Vegam? The reason is that the Krodha is the most destructive thing. From the mind arises Kama, Lobha, etc. But Rupa Goswami is not mentioned Kama Vegam separately or Lobha Vegam separately. But his anger also arises from the mind. But he mentions Krodha Vegam separately. Because the reason is that the Krodha is the most destructive thing, more than Kama and Lobha. Why it is the most destructive thing? Because the Krodha can finish off one's spiritual life instantly. Therefore, Rupa Goswami wants to highlight this urge separately, besides saying Manasa Vegam. So, Mahabharata, Vyasadeva says that, Nakaryam asti kruddasya. There is no misdeed that an angry soul may not potentially engage in. Because when a person becomes angry, one becomes completely deluded that one can go to any extent. There is no wrong activity which a person cannot commit when a person becomes angry. So in the sense, for example, when a person becomes angry, then one loses control over the tongue, and then one may speak some wrong words. So the failing to control the Vacha Vegam, the step before that is that the anger in the mind. So anger only leads to not being able to control one's speech. And anger only leads to not being able to control one's tongue. Because of, when a person, suppose somebody, you are standing in a line for prasadam, or somebody saying that prasadam is over, or, and then you become angry, and then you actually you may speak something to that person, or you go and eat somewhere else, whether it is awkward or not awkward. So initially the anger comes, and then anger that leads to uncontrolled tongue. So Krodha Vega only leads to losing control over the Jihva Vega. And similarly, Krodha Vega only leads to overeating or over accumulating. So Udara Vega means what? The Udara Vega means a desire to eat more or desire to over accumulate also, we can say. The desire to earn more. That is also because before that the Krodha comes. The Krodha Vega leads to losing control over Udara Vega, and then a person starts wants to actually wants to achieve something, and then he wants to earn more and more, leads to greed. And Krodha Vega also leads to losing control over the Upastha Vega. So in that sense, Krodha Vega can potentially upset our control on all the Vegas. Of course, the other Vegas, it can, without Krodha Vega also, a person can directly become unable to control the Udara Vegam or Jihva Vegam. But potentially speaking, Krodha Vega has the potential to make us lose control over the Vacho Vegam, Jihva Vegam, Udara Vegam, and Upastha Vegam. So therefore, because the Krodha Vega has that special element, therefore it is separately mentioned. Although technically speaking, it is included within the Manasa Vega. So, and of course, when we talk about anger, some anger is required in this world. There is healthy anger is also there, unhealthy anger. Some anger is healthy in order to get certain things done, especially when a person is in the position of a ruler or sometimes a manager or something. A person is, even then, because one should not become uncontrollably angry, but sometimes certain anger is required. Even the Lord, in order to make this world run, he exhibits anger. Madbayat vati vatoyam surya stapati madbayat varshatindro dahatyagnir mrityus charati madbayat. Kapila Dev says that because of my fear, all the demigods are actually functioning in this world. So some healthy anger is required in order to maintain discipline in this world. And even the rulers, they have to exhibit certain anger to punish the people. But the rulers have to be cautious about how they should not become excessively angry. Manusmriti says that when a ruler becomes excessively angry, then it leads to 8 faults. Paishunyam, Sahasam, Droha. Paishunyam, it leads to gossip. Sahasam, one starts harassing others. Droha, one starts betraying others. Irshya, envy. Asuya, fault finding. Artha Dushanam, snatching away others' wealth. Vag Dandajam, speaking harsh words. And Parushyam, physical assault. So these are the 8 faults of uncontrolled anger in a ruler. And so, yeah, some anger is required for the Supreme Lord in order to maintain discipline in this world. Some anger is required for a ruler in order to run the kingdom, punish the criminals. But what about for a sadhaka devotee? We are neither the Supreme Lord nor a ruler. What about for a sadhaka devotee? For a sadhaka devotee, we need to exhibit certain anger towards the people who are actually taking, who are under our care. For example, parents, they need to exhibit certain anger towards the children for maintaining, to discipline them. So such anger is called as a anushasana. Anushasana, for the purpose of discipline. So, or sometimes Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, they need to exhibit certain anger in order to train the disciples under them. But they should be exhibited in a measured way. There should be a limit of the healthy anger. We cannot become, sometimes when a guru becomes excessively angry, for example, Jamadagni became excessively angry towards Renuka. And then the result is explained in the 9th canto. Then he became excessively angry. He told his sons to kill their mother. So that is there is a result of excessive anger towards one's dependents. So yeah, some anger should be exhibited toward the people who are under us, who have accepted us as the authority, the children or the disciples, like that. But those who are not accepted as an authority, suppose when they are committing a mistake, we may report it to the people who are their authorities, who are their parents, who are their gurus. And when a person does not show that healthy anger, then there are certain repercussions. Suppose sometimes we have to exhibit certain anger to correct or discipline the people under us. But when one does not show that anger, then that leads to pampering that person. And they take it for granted and they keep committing more and more mistakes. That is why, like Prabhupada sometimes tells the story of that one snake became a disciple of Narada Muni, and Narada Muni told the snake not to bite others. And the snake stopped biting, and after that, everyone started beating that snake. And then later, when Narada Muni came, the snake told its condition to the Narada Muni. Narada Muni told that I told you not to bite, but I didn't tell you not to hiss. You may hiss in order to protect yourself. In order to protect yourself. Even in the Mahabharata, there is a very beautiful discussion between Yudhishthira Maharaj and I think Draupadi. In the Vanaparva it comes, where it is said that those people who constantly forgive others, even those who are repeatedly committing mistakes, and such people will attract many faults. And their subordinates, enemies, as well as neutral people, they will constantly disrespect such cowards. So suppose if the person is constantly forgiving others, even those who are repeatedly committing mistake, then such people will be disrespected by their subordinates, enemies, and neutral people. Therefore, that when a person does not show healthy anger when it is required, then it will lead to pampering others, and people will take advantage of them, and they will keep committing more and more mistakes. And the repercussions of unhealthy anger, when a person does not control the anger, what is the result? That is what Krishna says in the Gita. Krodad bhavati sammohat smriti vibramaha smriti bramshat buddhinashat pranashyati. One becomes completely deluded, sammoha. And then one forgets the memory of what is right and what is wrong. And then a person performs an activity which should not be done. One loses the intelligence and then one falls down. All the criminals who are in the jail, you can interact with them, they will see that how they became excessively angry and then they became deluded, they lost their memory. So therefore, in the Ramayana it is said, the result of uncontrolled Krodha Vegam is that Kruddha Papam na Kuryat Kaha Kruddho Hanyad Gurunapi Kruddha Parushaya Vacha Naras Sadun Adikshipet Vachya Vachyam Prakupito Na Vijanati Karhichit. which angry person does not commit forbidden acts? They all certainly do. An angry person may even end up killing one's own guru, or may end up censuring saintly souls using harsh words. An angry person does not understand what should or should not be spoken. So, an angry person can go to the extent of even killing one's guru. The guru is the one who actually saves the living entity from the material existence, but an angry person can go to even such an extent actually. Therefore, one should be very cautious of one should be cautious of the Krodha Vega. And what is the root cause of Krodha? The root cause of Krodha is that Ichcha and Dvesha. Ichcha Dvesha Samuttena Dvandva Mohena Bharata Sarva Bhutani Sammoham Sarge Yanti Parantapa. Ichcha, when a person wants to attain something, and when there are obstacles to obtain that object, and when one is unable to remove those obstacles, one becomes angry. And the Dvesha, one doesn't want to obtain something. But when that particular thing which is not wanting, when it is forced upon him, and when he is not able to stop that person who is forcing that upon him, then he becomes angry. So in that sense, Ichcha and Dvesha are the cause of anger. So therefore, the best way to prevent the Krodha Vegam is to prevent it from arising at the very beginning stage, to prevent it. So we have to stop the Krodha from the root cause, that is Ichcha and Dvesha. So what does the Bhagavatam recommend? In the 7th canto, 15th chapter, there's a list of verses. Narada Muni speaks about how to deal with the Kama, Lobha, how to cultivate satisfaction, how to overcome greed, etc. So there he says that Asankalpat Jayet Kamam Krodam Kama Vivarjanat. One should first overcome Kama, that is desire, by giving up the mental resolve that caused the desire. That means by determination, one can overcome Kama. By giving up the mental resolve that caused the desire. And then by giving up the such desires, by giving up the Kama, one should then overcome anger. Krodam Kama Vivarjana. So one overcomes Kama by giving up the mental resolve. Or Prabhupada translates as by practicing determination. And then by giving up the Kama, one should then overcome anger. So that is why I mentioned that anger is the Kamanuja, the younger brother of Kama. By giving up the Kama, one overcomes the Krodha. So in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami, when he described the 64 items of bhakti, he says that Alabdeva Vinashteva Bhakshya Chadana Sadane Aviklava Matir Bhutva Harim Yeva Diyasmaret. When desirable objects are not obtained, or when the desirable objects are lost after obtaining, then a sadhaka should remember Krishna without being disturbed at mind. Usually when the desirable objects are not obtained and when they are lost, we become angry. So at that time, we should try to remember Krishna and not get disturbed. So this is a sign of a person, a sign of a mature person who has overcome the material desires. A mature person who is not disturbed by Krodha is the person, when he is going through these troubling circumstances, at that time he fills his mind with the Krishna Smarana. Harim Yeva Diya Smaret. Aviklava matir bhutva harim eva diya smaret. So Krishna smarana is important. So that is how we can prevent the krodha. By filling our mind with the Krishna smaran. And sometimes, so when we cultivate this Krishna smarana, we can overcome the krodha. But sometimes we see that even in the advanced devotees, sometimes they become angry. In certain very difficult circumstances, we find in the Bhagavatam itself. Like here in this episode, Prachetas, they got darshan of Krishna. They offered such beautiful prayers. And Vishnu expressed his pleasure toward the Prachetas. But now they became little excessively angry towards the trees. Their anger is justified because they had to clear the land for agricultural purposes because the citizens were starving of hunger. And as a king, they had to supply foodstuffs for the starving citizens. Therefore, they had to clear the land for agricultural purposes. But then they became excessively angry. They started burning more trees than required. Our Dhruva Maharaj, one yaksha killed his brother, but he got carried away by the anger that he ended up killing more yakshas than required. So at that time, Swayambhu Manu comes and pacifies Dhruva Maharaj. So we can see even advanced devotees like Dhruva Maharaj or Prachetas, they became little excessively angry. So therefore, one of the another solution for anger is that one has to cultivate forgiveness. So the any event in which there is a quarrel, when there is a fight between people, that fight will stop only when some party decides to forgive. So therefore, like if you read the verses spoken by Swayambhu Manu to Dhruva Maharaj, Swayambhu Manu says that you are known as a recognized devotee, but you are not behaving like a devotee. And he inspires him to forgive, actually. So therefore, Vaishnava has to cultivate forgiveness. Shamaya tishtate rajan, shamaya vinivartate. Anger is prevented and pacified through forgiveness. And even Yudhishthira Maharaj says about forgiveness. If there are no individuals as tolerant as the forbearing earth, then there can never be any peace among the humans. All disputes are rooted in anger. If someone troubles us and we trouble them in return, if we physically assault a guru who assaults us, then such a mentality will result in the destruction of all living entities and the escalation of dharma and escalation of adharma. If all angry humans start exhibiting anger in return, then every person who has been assaulted will assault in return, and all those who have been victimized by violence will exhibit violence in return. Fathers will assault sons, and sons will assault the father in return. Husbands will beat their wives, and the wives will beat their husbands in return. Oh, Draupadi, in this way, when the whole entire world becomes angry, there will be no peace anywhere at all. Therefore, forbearance is indeed the true pacifier of all the humans. So therefore, forgiveness becomes most important. So usually, Vidura also says that most people are able to find only a single fault in a forgiving person. So they consider that the forgiving person is a weak person. But actually, forgiveness is not a quality, is not a weakness. Rather, forgiveness is the greatest strength of a person. Forgiveness is a quality of the weak as well as the ornament of the strong. So forgiveness can bring the entire planet under one's control. What can forgiveness not possibly achieve? What will evil ruffians be able to do against a person who is equipped with the sword of forgiveness in his mind. So therefore, that this is also another solution for anger, that anger has to be controlled by trying to develop the quality of forgiveness. Durvasa Muni tells to Ambarish Maharaj, Aho Ananta Dasanam Makatvam Drishtam Adyame Kritagasopi Yadrajan Mangalani Samihase. He says that today I have seen the greatness of the devotees of Lord Ananta. Although I actually tried to kill this Ambarish Maharaj, but he has actually forgiven me. Kritagasopi Yadrajan. Although I am an offender unto him, but he has forgiven me. He is actually praying for my welfare. So this is the greatest quality of this is also another way to overcome anger. So overcoming anger, we discussed 3 points: by giving up the desire, and by Krishna Smarana, filling our heart with the Krishna Smarana, and also by cultivating the quality of forgiveness. So these are some points I wanted to discuss. So in summary, what we discussed today, we discussed initially about the importance of tapasya and in what attitude we should perform tapasya. We discussed certain verses from the Bhagavatam, and also from the purpose of tapasya is to serve Krishna, worship Krishna. And then we discussed about the anger, especially from Bhakti Rasa, Upadeshamrita. Why Rupa Goswami has separately mentioned anger, although it is included within the Manasa Vegam. We discussed that. And then we discussed about the root cause of anger and how to overcome anger. And we also discussed healthy and unhealthy anger. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. That was really a wonderful, detailed description of on anger. So this is very helpful, Prabhuji. So this class would be very helpful. So I have to go through also again to all the points which you have told. It was very extraordinary class which we had today with you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Devotees, the forum is open for question and answers. So yeah, I can see Megha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances, all gracious Srila Prabhupada, Shri and Shri Garanga. This was such a wonderful class, Prabhuji, on anger, and it's very, very deep. So definitely lots of points. I mean, every single point, it's something that we have to contemplate upon, or at least I have to contemplate upon. So thank you so much for such a wonderful class. One question that I had was, you mentioned that we have to cultivate this quality of forgiveness, but at the same time, we also have to hiss. Like we shouldn't bite, but we should hiss. So how do we know and understand this concept of, how much or when to hiss, and what is the correct, appropriate way to hiss, and that we're not, and also I guess there's like lots of questions, I think, but another thing that you had also mentioned was about how we should be not attached to the results, because that's the root cause, one of the root cause of the anger. So how do we completely, balance this, I guess? How do we balance the forgiveness versus hiss, and how do we balance the how do we know when to and how much to, and all these things?
Yeah, usually we learn in due course only, actually. Oftentimes, because all of us, it's easy to give a seminar on anger, but I do commit mistakes, and oftentimes I do realize, I became a little excessively angry, I didn't show properly. So generally, these questions definitely come for any sincere sadhaka who is practicing bhakti. Generally, sometimes, just like for example, cycling. Initially, when we try to practice cycling, we fall in one side and then we get up, then we fall in another side. But then, just because we keep falling, if we just stop the effort of cycling, then we don't make any progress. But when we keep putting effort of cycling, in due course, we learn the art of balancing action. So when we talk about, so when to hiss, how much to, when to show angry and when not to show angry, how much to hiss. So that balance comes with actually maturity. And when we talk about maturity, maturity is a combination of theoretical knowledge, wisdom, and realization. Knowledge comes from basically reading the Shastra. When we are reading the Shastra, we get a theoretical knowledge, the Shastra. And when we hear from the devotees, we get more wisdom. That means we get we can come to know how to apply that knowledge in different circumstances. They share their experience. We gain more than some theoretical knowledge. We gain wisdom. And then when we try to apply that knowledge and wisdom in our life, then we get realization. Realization is like theoretical knowledge is like, suppose hearing that fire burns. But actual realization is like actually experiencing when you touch the hand, then your hand is burnt. So when you try to apply that knowledge and wisdom, you get realization. And the combination of knowledge, wisdom, and realization is what makes a person mature. And a mature person understands like how to balance, when to show this thing. So in general, I would say that a general guideline about when to hiss, when not to hiss, that good sadhana, and then be in touch with the knowledge, wisdom, and try to practice that. And in due course of time, Krishna will also, by seeing your sincerity, will give the guidance from within.
That's very satisfying answer, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Knowledge, wisdom, and realization is just something that we have to cultivate and keep on practicing, you know, as you gave this example of cycling. So, and then eventually in due course of time, as you said, Krishna will help from within and give guidance. So thank you so much for such a wonderful answer and such an enlightening class. Hare Krishna. And with Pranam.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Preeti Vilasini Mataji, please go ahead.
Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for such a nice class. Very nice analysis on anger, the root cause of anger, how to actually, the different statements from scriptures and anger. Prabhu, I have 3 questions. The first question is about the Prachetas themselves. So it says that the Prachetas, after all the tapasya, they were angry and they burnt the forest with the fire emitting from their mouth. Now, these are the same Prachetas who saw the Supreme Lord face to face, who heard the Rudra Gita, who glorified the Lord based on the Rudra Gita. So it is not some austerity without devotion or a heart that has not been cleansed by devotion. We have had a darshan of not only Lord Shiva, they have met with the Rudra Gita itself is a beautiful meditation, and they have learned the Rudra Gita, they have recited the prayers, and they have also performed austerities in a sense in a mode of devotion because they saw the Lord. And so where somehow I find a mismatch in the characterization, I mean not really characterization, but in the activities, because we always say a person in devotion, his heart is softened when he does austerity. It is always in a nice way, but however, a dry renunciant and a person who's doing dry austerities without an emotion of devotion is actually very, he can succumb to anger and pride and all that. So we understand the case of the.
So your question is like, Prachetas, like they definitely performed bhakti, they got darshan of Krishna. How is it that they became angry? That is the question.
And how do we call it dry austerities? Because when they had that element of devotion.
Correct, yes. Yeah, definitely. Prachetas, they performed bhakti because they chanted the prayers taught by Lord Shiva, which is completely pure devotional prayers. And their austerity was not definitely dry austerities. But at the same time, like Prachetas austerity, Dhruva Maharaj, Prachetas anger, Dhruva Maharaj's anger, they were actually nonsense. They required Dhruva Maharaj. He was right in becoming angry towards the person who killed his brother. The Prachetas, as because they are going to be the rulers, and they had to clear the land for agricultural purposes. Prabhupada writes in one of the future purports. And therefore they had to show that anger. But what happened? The anger is such that when you are not careful, the anger can become uncontrolled. So they started burning even the useful trees. There were many useless trees which were actually which had become overgrown. They were covering the agricultural lands. Those trees had to be cleared. But there were many useful trees. Pracheta started burning even those useful trees. Just like in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, that one yaksha killed his brother, but because he got carried away by the anger, he started killing many innocent yakshas also.
Correct. Yeah.
So that is the time Swayambhu Manu came and pacified. And here you will see that Soma, the lord of the moon, the plants and trees, he comes to pacify the Prachetas. So one of the point is that once a person has surrendered to Krishna, even if that person goes astray, Krishna will send some representative to come and actually bring that person to the right path.
Wonderful.
So many times the material world is such that material world creates very difficult circumstances even for very elevated people. Prachetas are highly elevated people. Dhruva Maharaj was highly advanced devotee. But the material world is also, the material nature is so powerful. Krishna says that Daivi Kesha Gunamai. It's very difficult to overcome. Material nature creates difficulties even for such advanced devotees. But the solace is that because once a person has surrendered to Krishna, even if the devotee goes astray, Krishna will send somebody to bring that person. And the greatness of these devotees is that they remain submissive to that superior guidance. Dhruva Maharaj controlled his anger. Prachetas, they actually withheld their anger, and then they stopped burning those useful trees. And that's how we can understand. And also we see, like sometimes they are advanced devotees. Sometimes even in the advanced devotees, there are some residual anarthas which may be left over. Because of that, a person can get carried over.
Right. Very nice, Prabhu. Very nice analysis. Prabhu, the second question was about when the Prachetas came out, they saw that there was no ruler, and that's when they start taking action. And we also see that in these at the end, after the second half of the Priyavrata came and he was taking charge. So the question here is, so in the remaining, that is the second to fourth Manvantara, so the respective Manu's descendants, they took over, but then in the beginning of the Chakshusha Manvantara, since there was no king, only for the beginning of Chakshusha Manvantara, the Prachetas, like they get, they spring up and they try to take it. Is that how we understand?
Prachetas, so when they come, they become the kings and they rule for I think 10,000 years. And then so the 10 Prachetas, they give birth to Daksha. So Daksha is born again. Daksha Yajna we see in the 4th canto. But then after Daksha gets the goat's head, and then he gives up that body, and then he is born second time as the son of the Prachetas. And as the son of the Prachetas, Now he is born as a Kshatriya. Previously he was a Brahmana, but because of the offense to Lord Shiva, now he is born as a Kshatriya. And then he wants to regain his powers as a Prajapati. Therefore, as soon as he is born, he goes to perform austerities.
Right, Hamsa. Yeah.
So at that time, now there was no king, because Prachetas had Daksha as the son, and Daksha went to perform austerities for 3 Manvantaras. He was performing austerities. So at that time there was no king, and so therefore that.
Sorry, Prabhu. When we say at that time there was no king, we mean only from the beginning of Chakshush Manvantara there was no king. Is that how we mean?
Yeah, from the beginning of the Chakshush Manvantara.
There was no king like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So from the second Manvantara till the second, third, and fourth Manvantara, there were no king.
There were no
second
kings.
is the Chakshush.
No. Fourth is, sixth is Chakshush.
No, not sixth. Sixth is Chakshush. No, this is for the second, third, and fourth Manvantara.
There were no
I
kings
forget
at
the
all.
names of the Manvantara. For these 3 Manvantaras, Daksha was performing the austerities. So these 3 Manvantaras, there was no king.
No king at all.
So no, in order to, because Daksha was performing austerities, they had to appoint a king. So at that time, Swayambhu Manu comes to Priyavrata Maharaj, and he's asking Priyavrata Maharaj to take up the responsibility of being a king. So then Priyavrata Maharaj rules. So because there was no, like when Daksha Prajapati goes to perform austerities, because there was no king, so therefore Swayambhu Manu comes and requests Priyavrata Maharaj. So then Priyavrata Maharaj rules, and then after Priyavrata Maharaj, I think the descendants of Priyavrata Maharaj, Uttama, Raivata, and Tamasa, they become the Manus of the second, third, and fourth Manvantara.
And their descendants rule for second, third, and fourth, right?
Yes. Their descendants rule. And then I think later Daksha Prajapati comes, that is in the beginning of Chakshusha Manvantara.
That is when in the beginning of that period there was no king, and they come out and they destroy the forest, and then Daksha has come.
Yes.
Okay, Prabhu. Third question is about anger itself. So very nice when you analyze the point that why we get angry is because we perceive. No, you said you don't perceive, but because of an offense of the person in front of you who's causing the anger, or the offense of ourselves, right? But my question is, isn't it more of a perception? Maybe that person is not offended. Maybe we are thinking they're offended. So is it only a perception, or it is really an offense?
Yeah, in the sense, like suppose a person is expecting certain things. Somebody is expecting certain respect towards him, and then he is not given a respect. He may that person may have disrespected him, or sometimes he may misunderstand that this person is not respecting me. Like sometimes a person may not notice you, he may not actually acknowledge your presence. But we may perceive that, oh, this person is deliberately disrespecting me. So sometimes because of wrong perception, we may become angry. Or sometimes it could be the other person is not respecting you. And then because you are expecting respect, therefore we may become angry in the mind.
So mostly it's about us. Yeah, it's our mind and our.
So that's why that Avadut Brahmana's verses, he says that uncontrolled mind only leads to anger and
very nice, Prabhu. Very, very nice analysis. Super class, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Preeti Vilasini Mataji, for that very wonderful question. It was really helpful for us all by asking that question. And about the Manus, you were discussing very nicely, Prabhuji. So it's, I think I have to share it again. I didn't get the point actually, so I should go and hear the recording again. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a wonderful question and answer session. You had so much patience to for all the questions which we asked. I don't see any more hand raised, Prabhuji, or neither any questions on the chat, so we can end the call here. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for giving your valuable time and association, and it was indeed a very wonderful in-depth class. So devotees, let's pay our obeisances to Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, we wish you that you should come again on the call and frequently relish us on this detailed subject of Srimad Bhagavatam. Vancha kalpatrupasya kripa sindhupescha patitanam pavanam Vaishnavebhyo Vaishnavrinki Jai Jai Prabhupada ki Jai Radhika Vallabha Prabhu ji ki Jai Granraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Peace to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gauranga.
Wonderful class.
Nityananda.
It's getting late now. 2 o'clock, right?
Mataji, it's already done, right? So we don't be having.
Today I think we don't have parikrama because it's already 8 o'clock. Yeah, that's what I said. It's getting late now, so we will have tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you so much, dear.
Thank you, Mataji.